Today is Thursday, November 6th, and I am Joan Gremont, and I am interviewing Alan Levy as part of the Roots to Boots project and part of the Dallas Jewish Historical Society's Oral History project.
Right.
Alan, tell us about South African life. Talk about when and why your family originally immigrated to South Africa and what you can tell us about their early years in South Africa.
Well, my dad's family, my Boba and my Zayda, came to South Africa from Lithuania, and they had a family of 10 children, and my dad was one of 10 children. There were 7 boys and 3 girls. They had a real estate company, my dad with his 2 brothers, called Levy Brothers Estate Agents in Johannesburg, which were one of the leading estate agents in the country at the time. And they built up a wonderful business over many years. My mom, her family, strangely enough, my mother's mother was Rose as well as my dad's mother was also Rose. So we had 2 Roses in the family. And my mom's family, my mom's dad came from Lithuania as well, and my late grandfather, whose name was Alfred Hennigsberg, came from his parents came from England.
Right.
And that's as far as I know, as far as their background is concerned. And my late grandfather, Alfred Hennigsberg, had his family built a huge clothing business called Hennigsbergs in South Africa, and they manufactured clothing for the police, the uniforms for the police, the army, the navy, whoever, firefighters, everything. They provided the uniforms for those particular individuals, and then he retired at about 70 years old, and that's what I can tell you about my grandparents.
So you knew both sets of grandparents?
I knew
South
both
Africa.
sets of grandparents, and both were wonderful. They were very different in their ways, but very nice people. I did not know my dad's father, my Zayda. He died about 2 years before I was born. His name was Leopold.
So tell us about your own life growing up in South Africa and your immediate family, siblings.
My life growing up in South Africa, just like I'm sure you'll hear from others, was just stunning. I mean, our young life and the friends that I made there, and the people that I knew, and the family that I had, because we were such a big family, was a wonderful upbringing at that particular point of time. I know that we were all at that particular point of time living life through rose-colored glasses, and we all enjoyed our life very, very much. We had freedom, we had whatever we wanted, and thank God my parents and provided everything. They gave us all that I could ever wish for. My brother Ronald, who is 3 years younger than me, and then I have a sister Susan, who is 6 years younger than me. She's now 60, I'm 66. Susan lives in South Africa with my mom. She doesn't live with her, she has her own apartment, but takes good care of my mother and is close by. My mother is in senior living, she's 88, and I'm leaving Dallas very shortly to go and visit her. And Ronald is here. He came here about 4 years ago and has been working really hard to build up his business situation.
So
now
he came
for
with
him.
his wife,
He
correct?
came with his wife. It was quite an amazing story how he got here, but just very briefly, bottom line is that about 18 years ago, Naomi's sister and late brother-in-law applied for Ronald and Naomi to come when they got their citizenship. And when Ronald applied to come here, get a visa to come to Vicky's wedding, he was turned down because they said that his green card is in the works, and they couldn't come, and he didn't even know about it.
Wow.
But he took the advantage and said, I'm coming to Dallas, and I'm fortunate to have a brother here and my sister-in-law.
All right, so those rose-colored glasses, let's get back to that. How and why did you make the decision to leave South Africa, and when was that?
Well, Rena and myself did things we made a move twice.
Okay, tell us about it.
In 1966, it was 1966 basically that we made the decision, but we left,
76.
it was, 1976, we went to Toronto after I was offered an opportunity there, and we lived in Toronto for 4 years. And I did very, very nicely there, but Rena hated the weather. We went back to South Africa in December of 1980, and we made a decision after our parents both spoke to us, said that they want us back there in South Africa, and would we consider coming back. I went back to Toronto just to tie things up, and I wanted to be very fair to the company that employed me, and came back to South Africa with our children. Vicky was born in Toronto, and we came back to South Africa in 1980. 1980 to 1986 was wonderful for all of us because our kids got to know their grandparents, which they wouldn't have done so otherwise. So they knew all 4 of their grandparents, and they had 6 years in which time we got to know them as a family, and Vicky and Brett knew their grandparents, which was an unbelievable decision at that particular point of time that we made. So we stayed in South Africa from 1980 to 1987, when we came I came at about the end of 1986. So we've been here since 1986. I think Rena came at the end of 1986, and we've been in Dallas ever since.
And what made you change your mind and leave South Africa a second time and come to Dallas?
Well, things were a little bit rough in South Africa. I wasn't quite sure. I'm sure just like all of us, we had our thoughts about the future and what was going to happen. And Rene's got 2 sisters here in America, and I was offered a very nice position at the time and had an opportunity to move to America, which was absolutely fantastic that I could get a visa to come here at that particular point of time.
And in what way were people helpful to you when you first came to Dallas?
Well, the South African community were absolutely, it's just amazing the closeness of the South African community here. And Rene and myself made friends and acquaintances very swiftly, and those friends that we met at that particular point of time are still our closest friends today.
And what were your first impressions of the United States and of Dallas in particular?
Well, in those days, I was much younger. I was in my late 30s. And it was a different impression. It was a very new life to us, although we had lived in North America before, so we did have some idea of what we were in for. But I had to work very, very hard in the first 10 years or 15 years of my career here to build up my business and to build up a life for Renee and myself, because the first position that I came to was I exited out of there after about 1.5 years.
So that you could say was one of the challenges you faced.
That was a challenge, a very big challenge, because I was very concerned as to what I was going to do. And as most South Africans who come here, you have a certain amount of money that you came with, so it was very tough at that particular point of time to get ahead and to try and make the correct decisions of moving ahead. But Renee was absolutely fantastic in that regard, because she really looked after the children, and as much as I went to the baseball games and the football games and this type of thing, it was heads down, just like most husbands in Dallas at that particular point of time.
Tell me about Israel. How important was that to you growing up in South Africa, and is it very important to you today?
Israel has always been a very important part of my life. I've always thought of it as home, for the Jewish people. And when I went to Israel in 1967, it was just after the Six-Day War, Israel was still in its infancy at that particular point of time. So I saw Israel just after the war and what had happened, but it was still very small at that particular point of time. And Rena and myself going back there at the end of January of 2015, but it has always had a very important role in my mind for the Jewish people of the world.
And tell us about Jewish cultural traditions that you had growing up in the Levy family, and how you've brought those. Have you brought them with you, and how have you maintained them here?
Well, my family were very orthodox. So we went to the Walmart Street Shul. And funny you mentioned that, because those were the best days, some of the best days of my life, because Walmart Street Shul had an upper landing where the women came downstairs and the men came, from upstairs, and the men met the women, and our family, because it was so big, met on that first landing, and we took up nearly the whole of the first landing because our family was so big. And it was very exciting times. I remember a lot of great times over the holidays with my family and everybody being there. I had a few famous people in my family. My late dad's brother Sid, who is still alive now, is 92 years old. He lives in New York with his son. He was a Springbok tennis player, and he played Davis Cup and Wimbledon for South Africa. My first cousin, Julie Mayers, was also a Wimbledon Davis Cup player for South Africa. My late uncle, Jaime Miller, was the mayor of Johannesburg.
Okay, yeah.
And my parents and my family, we've always been pretty sociable and pretty open with one another, always, our whole lives. So we've had I was very fortunate to be brought up in a very close-knit family, and we always looked after one another.
Okay. And you told us your brother Ron and his wife came to live in Dallas.
Yes.
And tell us about how your family has grown since you immigrated here, your children and grandchildren.
Well, I say a prayer every morning to thank God that I have the most beautiful family. My son and my daughter, both Brett and Vicky, married Jewish husband and wives respectively. And that was one of the most important things that I taught them, and Rene taught them. Rene was a little bit more lenient than I was, but I would not allow that. And I made sure that both my kids married Jewish. And they appreciate that today very, very much, because I'm very fortunate that both my kids grew up well. They weren't into any drugs or any issues like that. I never ever had problems. Vicky was a little more of a wilder than Brett, but they both got through it very well, and I've been provided with 2 beautiful grandsons in San Antonio and 2 beautiful granddaughters in Dallas, and I've got a wonderful daughter-in-law with Jill here. She's a fantastic lady and a great mother. And my son-in-law Jason in San Antonio is a wonderful, wonderful father and a great person. So more than that in life, I cannot wish for.
That's true.
And I've got wonderful friends here and people that I love and people that I respect, and that is the situation up to now.
You talked about your mother and your sister still being in South Africa. Do
Yes.
you visit there often?
Rena and myself for the last, I think about 10 years or so. I mean, we've gone every year to visit. Since my mom could not, the last time my mom was here was when was for Brett's wedding.
Okay.
It was for Brett's wedding. So that was 11 years ago.
Okay.
And she's never, unfortunately, because she had a pacemaker put in at that particular point of time, so she's been very nervous about traveling and coming back. So for the past 11 years, basically, or 10 years, Rena and myself go back every year in about December or January, and then we stay for a month.
Okay.
And then we take her and my sister to Cape Town for about 3 weeks, and Rena and myself go away to Plettenberg Bay for a week. And so I see her every year, but this year, unfortunately, her ill health, and she cannot walk anymore, so she's basically wheelchair ridden right now.
Right.
And so I'm going this year to spend 2 weeks with her, with Brett, who hasn't seen her since, also for 10 years. So it's going to be very exciting, and I'm looking forward to that.
So what, if anything, do you miss about your life in South Africa?
Well, I miss the old life in South Africa. The new life in South Africa is very, very different from what we knew it growing up there. I think it's a total turnaround. It's still a fantastic country, and I will always respect and remember the great times we had there. But it's a total new situation. When I look back in my life, Rena and myself have spent about 34 years out of South Africa in total, including Canada. So, it's a long time. But one thing I know, I've got friends there who I grew up with, went to school with, and who are still very, very close to us, and that when Rena and myself go there, we're always entwined by our past relationships, and we have a fantastic time with those people, and especially our family, and being together with my mom and my sister.
So, do you consider yourself an American, and do you have United States citizenship?
There's not a question in my mind that I do, at this particular stage of my life, consider myself American. I will never forget my South African roots, and will always appreciate my South African roots, but I really consider myself as an American. It was quite a long story. Irena and myself got our citizenship here, and because we had a lawyer helping us who unfortunately did not come through for us at the time, and it was quite a difficult time in our lives. It happened about 20 years ago, and Henrius Miller Company, who I was working for then, would not allow this to happen, that I had a problem. And because of my relationship and because of my business ethics and responsibilities, and I've done very well for them. It was the first time they'd ever done this, but they opened up their books and they opened up their hearts to me and Renee, and they organized us to cut our green cards for us within a matter of 3 months. And then we became citizens after 5 years.
Good.
Yes.
I noticed some artwork above your head with an Adele Levy written
Yes.
there. Tell us about those and
Well,
the artist.
Well, I appreciate you taking so much time with me, but my mom was wonderful with her hands and everything. She used to make her own clothes. She used to knit us sweaters. She used to make us, in the old days, I'll never forget, she made us Davy Crockett hats. Remember those hats that we had? Yeah, and we used to wear those. I mean, whatever we wanted, she could make. She was absolute wonderful artist. But most predominantly was her pictures that she painted. And some of them you can see here in the background, which is are a few of the many that we've got in our family, and many that she sold over the years, etc. But she had a wonderful artist type background. She got to her 5th year in she was a architect, and my dad
Wow, yeah.
stopped her from going forward with that, because he married her and he said he didn't want her to work anymore. And so on her final year of architecture, she gave that up.
Wow.
So she's just wonderful. She had a wonderful way with my with all of us. She just has been the most kind and gentle person you could ever wish to meet.
Tell us about the photographs next to you. Who are those photographs?
That's my late dad. Who, people come and they see his picture and they ask me if that's Walt Disney, because and the one in my study looks like Walt Disney exactly. And so he was a great guy. He was more, not only my dad, but he was like a buddy. I mean, anything went with us. And him and his brothers at our office, we had a time you won't believe. We've always had a lot of humor in our family and a lot of happiness, and I continue hopefully to show that.
And the other photograph? Who's
And that's my late woman.
Which side?
My
side?
dad's
Your
mother.
father's side.
Yeah,
Okay.
and she had 10 children, as I said, and I could never believe how she did it. I remember her, whenever we came to her house, she used to be peeling fruit
Yeah.
And she used to be handing it to, here my kind, here my kind, here
Right.
my kind,
Okay.
giving fruit out to the kids, and then her 3 daughters would stand there braiding her hair, which was down to her, I'm telling you, right down to her knees, basically. And they used to braid her hair for her. She was a real tomboy. She used to ride horses bareback.
Yeah.
In the old days when she was a youngster. And how she brought up 10 children was amazing. And she used to tell us the stories of the eldest used to take care of the youngest. And she had pots on the stove continually, my dad used to tell me, because I couldn't understand how she could have raised 10 children.
Right. Lovely memories. Anything
Lovely.
else, Alan, that we didn't include that you'd like to add?
Well, all I'd like to add is that Rena and myself are so happy in Dallas. You know, our family and our friends mean the world to us, and we try and hopefully show that friendship to all of you, our friends, and our family that is now here as well. And I'm very, very proud of what we did in our lives, and how we strived, and the energy behind coming here to America, starting our lives again, and how our family have blossomed. And I look at big pictures of our family and our friends. Rena and myself go through our pictures. Funnily enough, this morning when she was looking for a picture of her dad, and I saw all of you guys as well, you know, 28 years ago when we came here, you know, how we all looked and what we were all about in those particular days, and the friendships that have grown so substantially over the years. So more than this, I cannot ask for in life. And I'm nearing the time where I want to relax a little bit more, and changing my life around a little bit now, because I feel by the time we turn about 85, 80, you know, our lives start.
We've got a way to go.
Yeah, we've got a way to go, and I try not to look to those things, but one has to plan and enjoy our lives. That's the most important thing.
Thank you, Ellen. Appreciate that
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you
Thank
both.
you.